Ash, 2025 is about to begin, about to commence, and there's quite a large list of games that we already know about that are coming. Obviously, we go into years with many unknowns. Many are going to be announced and released in that year. But for now, at least, we are pretty excited for quite a few games that are coming up. So I want you to kick us off with something that you are really looking forward to.
All right, I can do that. Well, you know what? I am on weirdly enough, the Konami train lately. Yeah. Obviously, Konami hasn't been doing, the Konami is Konami these days. But they just delivered alongside Bloober Team, I almost said this year, with Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 Remake, which ended up being so freaking good. Bloober Team delivered in spades alongside Konami's supervision. And because I'm on the Konami train again right now, because of Silent Hill 2, I'm just going to say it. Metal Gear Solid Delta. MGS3, Snake Eater, is my favorite Metal Gear Solid game of all time. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And I'm really excited to see what Konami can deliver with Delta. Obviously, no Bloober Team this time. But I'm excited to see what they can deliver. Is it a guaranteed slam dunk? No. But it is the best MGS game, and they seem to be going all in on it, and I really am excited to see what they can deliver with a 2025 version of my favorite Metal Gear game.
I'm so excited too, man. I was a bit let down when they first showed it off because it felt like the color grading wasn't right and all that.
Right.
But they've got filters that sort of give you back that yellow PS2 sort of tinge. Will it be perfect? Probably not, 'cause it's just a filter, but I'm excited for the gameplay enhancements because up until now, only the 3DS version let you crouch and move at the same time. Because on PS2, if you tried doing that, you'd crawl.
Right.
We've also got different kind of aimings as well, similar to the 3DS version. And it's just cool that they're sort of compiling all the stuff from that. Because 3DS was a great version, but it also ran awfully. So to get the best of both worlds with beautiful clarity is just great. And it feels like it can stand alongside the HD collection version just fine, considering that was basically just the 360 version of that game.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just thinking of so many iconic moments from that game, various boss fights, of course. Obviously, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but you know what I'm saying when I say the final boss fight. With 2025 tech and presentation, I feel like they have the ability
They teased us with that 6-7 years ago with that pachinko machine. Do you remember?
I do. I sure do. And I feel like they have the chance to really deliver on that in a proper cinematic single-player context this time, right? Really, I never thought I'd find myself here on the cusp of 2025 being hyped about a Konami game, of all things, but I'm glad that I am.
I'm hyped for another Konami game. Suikoden 1 and 2.
Yeah,
it's not just a compilation either. They haven't just put the PlayStation ROMs and chucked them onto a cartridge. This is basically an HD 2D remaster. And you can flip back to the old PlayStation version, which I wish all remasters would do that, just let you appreciate how it looked. But it's in widescreen now. They've added new lighting, new backgrounds, new sound effects. They're really going ham with these. And I've only played Suikoden 2, so the first one's going to be a brand new game to me. I'm super pumped for this.
So, you know what? Even better in my case, I've played so many of the storied PS1 RPGs, but two of the ones I haven't played somehow are Suikoden 1 and 2. Those are just their blind spots in my PS1 play history. So, speaking as someone who is playing right now, Dragon Quest III HD 2D, that is another game I never played back in the day, and I'm having an amazing time discovering what is so special about DQ3 via the HD 2D remake. And now I've got Suikoden 1 and 2, games that I never really sought out to avoid. I was never like, I'm not going to enjoy these. I just never really had a chance for whatever reason.
It's difficult to now. They're like, $200 each or something like that? Maybe more? They're really rare games.
So now I've got a chance to really properly experience these games.
Speaking about rare games, Caitlin just mentioned Luna. Luna Eternal Blue, Luna Silver Star, they are both getting a compilation similar to Suikoden, where it's kind of a brand new version. I've only played the Sega CD version of Silver Star and Eternal Blue.
Interesting.
It's drastically different to the PlayStation version, which I believe This one's based off the Saturn and PlayStation 1. And I love the Sega CD version, but I know that combat's different. I know the core graphic design is different. A lot of it's just completely different to Sega CD. So again, these are kind of new games to me, at least these versions of them. I can't wait for that because I love Luna so much.
Same. So I have only ever played the PS1 version, so they won't be as new to me, I guess, unfortunately. But even if they're not new to me, I will be screaming from the rooftops, everybody, play Lunar 1 and 2. These are such great games, and they're based on good versions of the games. I never played them on Sega CD, unfortunately, so I can't compare. But I know I had a wonderful time with them on PS1 with Silver Star Story Complete and Eternal Blue Complete. So I would happily recommend both of those games to any RPG fans in 2025. And I'm so glad. It's kind of how I felt when the Grandia HD collection was announced. I'm like, oh, Grandia 1 and 2, these games rule. I'm so glad that a new generation is going to be able to experience these games properly. Same with Lunar. So yeah, that's coming too.
Yeah. Have you got anything else that you want to shout out? I've seen a few cool ones in live audience there.
Well, I mean, I got to mention, speaking of games I personally haven't gotten a chance to play, C-Store24 mentions Xenoblade X.
Yes.
As you know, Xenoblade X Definitive Edition's coming in March, and I'm a big Xenoblade fan. I've gone off over and over again about how much I love Xenoblade 3, one of my favorite games of all time. But the only one I never played was X. I never had a chance. When it came out on Wii U, I was just distracted by other things. I have my reservations. I feel like, based on what I've heard, it may not necessarily resonate with me in the same way that 1, 2, and 3 do, but it's still Xenoblade, and it's still everything, I mean, I've heard the soundtrack. It's insane. It's crazy good. I've heard there's some crazy twists in the story. I still want to experience and explore that world because Xenoblade's all that exploration. So even if there isn't as much of an overt focus on, anime style storytelling like I love in 1, 2, and 3, I still am looking forward to finally experiencing Xenoblade X properly for the first time because I never got to back on Wii U. And we have seen, Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition is the ideal definitive version of that game. So I have little doubt that Xenoblade X Definitive Edition is going to deliver in a similar way.
If this game lands with you, it can be like one of the best games you've ever played. It's so freeing. It's the predecessor to Breath of the Wild in many ways. I think the story can really hit with you, as long as you understand that gameplay is the drive. But there's a lot of really good story beats and twists in there as well. And the Wii U game, as great as it was also underwhelming in the way that it ended, because it didn't really end. And now we're finally getting that culmination in there, finally getting a conclusion. So there's
it seems like there's going to be a bit of an addition, right?
Like it's exciting, like whether you've played it or not. That there's some really worthwhile stuff to come back to. Professor Bonk a few moments ago mentioned Level 5, and there are some Level 5 games coming. Deca Police was meant to be 2022, then it was 2024. Now it's 2026. So that game's not coming next year. But Professor Layton and the New World of Steam as is Fantasy Life I. What was the subtitle to that? The girl who not leapt through time. That's an anime. It's something like that. But I'm really excited for Layton in particular. And Fantasy Life would be a nice chill one as well. But we've not had a Layton game since the 3DS. And it's going to be really interesting to play it on a console for the first time rather than just a DS-style handheld.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of getting that experience right now a little bit with Mario and Luigi Brothership, right?
Yeah.
Because those have ever really been handheld, and now they're first we got the first one on console ever, and same thing with Layton. I actually watched the latest trailer with my wife just a couple of days ago because she's a big Layton fan, and so I watched that with her, and she seemed pretty intrigued by what's on offer. I'm not a big puzzle guy myself, so personally, as much as I love Layton the character and I respect the series, I'm not like necessarily champing at the bit to play it myself because I'm just not a puzzle guy necessarily, but I'm super excited that Layton is properly coming back and it's not like a spin-off as we saw with Catriel. It's
Sure.
not, it's like a proper Layton 7. I would like to see, because, you know, I've mentioned this before, but I did I copy edited the art book for Udon, the Layton art book. So even though I haven't played all 6 games, I know the story, and I know Layton 3 especially, and I really want to see a new Layton game touch the emotional highs that Layton 3 did again at some point, because I'm like, I didn't play it, but I'm like, oh man, that story was so good.
It really is. It is.
Yeah.
For those who haven't played it, it's not too late. That's one of the best examples of storytelling in a game, I think. It's so hard-hitting.
Not too late, 10.
Never too late, 10.
Yeah.
Speaking about brand new games, because we've been quite heavy on remasters, Layton's a new one, but also Expedition 33, I'm very pumped for. This was announced, I think, last year in the Game Awards, and it's done in France, but it's very much a JRPG in terms of its design. So think like Paper Mario in terms of combat, like doing those action commands before a hit lands.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's got an all-star cast. Like you've got Ben Starr, you've got Jennifer English, a lot of like Baldur's Gate characters, and a lot of Final Fantasy actors, and it feels like they've done so much with what they have. But it's an indie game, even though it feels like it's hitting the caliber of something a AAA would deliver. But I'm really pumped for this one. I think it's gonna be on Game Pass as well, but it's also on PS5 and PC. Hopefully Switch 2. That Switch 2 be a nice platform for this one.
Hell yeah, I actually hadn't heard about this. You mentioned it before we started recording, and, you know, I love indie games. I'm big in the indie scene, but I hadn't personally heard about this. So it sounds like something I need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, and they said it's 30 hours long as well, which is that's a selling point for an RPG, because sometimes like they can just go on forever. But a nice 30-hour, and I think it's like what, $40 as well, even though it seems like it should be a full price game. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck with this.
That's nice then. Hell yeah. Another one for sure for me, speaking of the indie scene, and I know you mentioned this before we started recording too, as a big rhythm game, I'm not myself rhythm game, as a big rhythm game fan, I am so excited about Rift of the Necrodancer, particularly not just as a rhythm game fan, but as a Rhythm Heaven fan, because there are specifically Rhythm Heaven style gameplay experiences in this, and because Nintendo clearly don't want to give us a new Rhythm Heaven game maybe ever again, we've got Rift of the Necrodancer, and I've gotten to demo this now multiple times at various conventions like PAX East, PAX West. I walk away happier every single time I demo this game. They're going the Rhythm Heaven direction, at least for part of it. And man, I can't wait for this game. It just looks like pure joy.
Mm. And like you didn't learn too well with Crypt or Cadence, but this seems like far more your avenue, because that took like dungeon crawling and put rhythm aspects in there, whereas this is just wholeheartedly a rhythm game.
Exactly, yeah. And as you said, Crypt never really jived with me that much. I respect it as a good game. It's just not the kind of the rhythm game that I super enjoy. But Rift seems like it's much more up my alley, particularly, you know, as considering that Nintendo themselves maybe not, I don't know if they'll ever make another Rhythm Heaven game again. So at least we've got the Rift devs doing their take on that. And what I've played of it is just pure joy. And I can't wait to play the full game.
Totally. Yeah. Another indie I'm quite excited for, and it's one I haven't actually looked into much, but I'm just I have my faith that it's going to be great. Hyperlight Breaker. So I played Hyperlight Drifter on PS4 and Switch, and I love it. And I've seen this one in passing, and I kind of don't want to look into it because I just want to experience it when I can, just play the whole thing. But I have a lot of faith that they're going to deliver with this one, because the first one's like one of those, like, it's one of the best in the field, I feel, and I've no doubt that they're going to deliver with this one. Agreed.
Another one that comes to mind to me that to be fair, I'm kind of cheating. It hasn't been officially confirmed for 2025, but okay. I would bet my bottom dollar that it will actually come out this year. Mina the Hollower.
Yeah.
I need this game so bad. Like y'all know, I'm a big Yacht Club Games fan, and I fully, I fully admit, full disclosure, I have friends at the company. A lot of people on the dev team are friends of mine, so I just want to make that clear. But even if they weren't, what I've played of Mina the Hollower, like it's like Link's Awakening crossed with a bit of a Souls-like experience. It's harder than you would think, but also it's not unfairly hard. It's got this just amazing chiptune soundtrack, one I've heard so much from Jake Kaufman, and it's just, if you know my tastes, Mina is like exactly lining up with everything that I love about games, right?
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So I think it actually will come out this year or next year. To be fair, like I said, it hasn't been officially confirmed, but I would be pretty surprised if
it feels like it should.
2025.
Yacht Club have a few things cooking. There's also like that 3D Shovel Knight game they teased. I doubt that's going to land in 2025, but it's cooking somewhere. Another indie I want to shout out, and I think this title might not mean much, but then when I say who's behind it, it will. Omega 6: The Triangle Stars. This is done by the art director of Star Fox and F-Zero. And he left Nintendo a few years ago to start his own studio. And it's a visual novel, but if you look at the visuals, it is so reminiscent of that era of Nintendo, that sort of F-Zero, Star Fox 64 kind of era. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I think they announced it for February yesterday. So very, very excited for that one. But to get onto a big boy, Metroid Prime 4 exists.
Yeah.
it was announced in 2017 in the Switch's first year. We're finally getting it in the Switch's last year, and it's so tangible now. We've seen it. We know what it plays like. It plays like a Metroid Prime game from what we've seen. But we've had nothing but a small slither. We've had the appetizer. There's clearly going to be a hook that we have not seen yet, whether that's a power-up or the scope of the world or whatever. But just knowing that Metroid Prime is back in the capable hands of Retro and that it looks gorgeous, that's enough for me to have faith that they're going to deliver. And Retro always deliver.
Same. I mean that trailer basically showed me everything I need to know. It is another Metroid Prime game.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. It looks, some of the visuals we saw in that trailer didn't seem like they should be possible on Switch. And given that what we saw with Metroid Prime Remastered, which still blows me away to this day, what they were able to accomplish with the visuals.
At 60 FPS as well.
It's crazy. Yeah. So I have no doubt that Retro is cooking like crazy on Prime 4, and I can't wait. I mean, what else can I say? I'm super excited.
Yeah. Nintendo mostly have just remasters. We've got DKC Returns. You've mentioned Xenoblade X. We've also got Pokémon Legends Z-A, which, again, we know nothing about. We have that teaser of like Pikachu running around Lumio City. Otherwise, no details on that one.
I'm still like... So the first Pokemon Legends, I definitely appreciated what it was, and I'm glad that so many people enjoyed it. I personally kind of bounced off it after 10 to 20 hours. I'm like, okay, I feel like I've gotten my fill. I don't think it was a bad game, but it just wasn't necessarily for me long term. And with this one, I'm curious because I have very little doubt that it'll be a great game. I mean, it's Pokemon. Obviously, yes, people have their complaints about Game Freak, especially with, in terms of technology and performance, but it's Pokemon. It's probably going to be a great game. I'm just more curious about, like, how do you make Lumio City and only Lumio City a compelling setting?
They've got to sell us on that, because it's not exactly exciting to say this game takes place all in the city and then not show us what they mean by that. Like,
yeah, it's hard to imagine that being interesting, but I also believe in their ability to deliver. I'm just like, but what does that look like, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit like, I'm not sure, but I'm curious to see how that pans out.
Bonk also mentioned Xbox, which we haven't mentioned yet, and they have some pretty cool exclusives coming up. Just to name a few, we've got Fable, we've got Perfect Dark, we've got Avowed, and there's a few more out there that are slipping my mind, but Xbox does have a pretty good year coming up.
I really hope Perfect Dark makes it. Like, I really hope Perfect Dark releases as the game that we are all hoping that it will be. Obviously, it has been experiencing development hell, but Perfect Dark has a certain pedigree, and I want them to deliver. I want the initiative to deliver on their vision. Perfect Dark can be very, very cool when it's done right. We've seen the highs and lows, right? We saw the original, we saw Perfect Dark Zero. Obviously, I want this new game to be as good as it can be. I'm just, obviously, with all the development hell experience, I'm a little bit worried, but I'm hopeful that it will turn out to be something that everybody loves.
Yeah, I didn't think the gameplay demo they showed exactly looked like Perfect Dark, but Perfect Dark can evolve to be something else. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if you want more Perfect Dark, what you really want is Time Splitters. That game kind of continued what GoldenEye and Perfect Dark were doing, and they're great games. And I hope we get another Time Splitters someday, but I don't think that's very likely. But Fable is very interesting too. It's done by the Forza Horizon developers, who have never missed in their lives. They haven't shown a whole lot of gameplay, but I think I just have faith in that studio to deliver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that as you said, that studio has never missed. No. I have, the utmost faith in them to deliver. Another one that I am looking forward to, kind of an old storied series that is returning to the forefront in the year 2025, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. I got to play that at Summer Game Fest, and it's coming along really well. I played a lot of. I was primarily a Street Fighter kid, and I admit that. However, I did also indulge in Fatal Fury growing up, and I was not one of those people who was like, when Terry was revealed for Smash, who's this Ken with a ponytail? Put some respect on SNK's name, man. It's Fatal Fury. It's Terry frickin' Bogard. I play some Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, and at Summer Game Fest, it feels and looks so good. And I know that if Steve was here, our compatriot Steve was here, he would be freaking out because I know how excited he is about Fatal Fury. But I am too. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's looking great, and I love what I've played so far of the demos that I played. Incredible
era for fighting games. We've also got the Capcom Fighting Collection too, with Power Stone coming back.
And Project Justice. I don't know why Rival Schools isn't coming back. It's weird that it's only Project Justice and not Rival Schools. But I have said forever that Rival Schools and Project Justice are two of my favorite fighting games of all time. And the fact that at least one of them is coming back properly for Fighting Collection 2, I'm so happy. If you haven't played Project Justice before, you're in for a treat. If you're into anime nonsense, crazy bullshit, it is the fighting game for you. Trust me, it's great.
I also want to shout out Doom: The Dark Ages, which is a game we haven't seen that much of either. But in retrospect, I think Doom Eternal, as good as it was, didn't quite deliver on Doom 2016. I think that first game is more solid across the board. Doom Eternal can get a bit exhausting after a while. I think Doom: The Dark Ages has a lot to deliver on there. I think the just the whole idea and the premise of it is really interesting. Just doing it in a totally different setting. I'm excited for this one, and I hope that they've taken the right lessons from Eternal and have figured out what made the first one so great. But I think they can make a fantastic game here.
Agreed. You know what's really interesting, and who we haven't mentioned yet, Square Enix. We don't know anything. About what Square Enix. So, and they had a big 2024, right? They had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They had Dragon Quest III HD 2D.
Right. And we know Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D.
So that's coming.
That's one thing. Yeah.
So but beyond Dragon Quest 1 and 2, we don't really know what they're cooking, right? Like, obviously, FF7 Part 3 is not coming next year. No. Kingdom Hearts 4 is not coming next year, but they've got to have some. There's no way we're going to see 2025 come and go without a single Square Enix release. So I wonder what they're cooking, right? It's interesting to think about.
It isn't uncommon for them to announce a game and then ship it a few months later. Happens a lot with HD 2D games. Like Live Alive was announced in like a June Direct and then released in like August or something like that.
Right.
I wouldn't be too surprised if Nintendo had a few directs with big Square games. And Square are also usually big supporters of like new hardware, so Switch 2 Square games seem very likely, whether it's ports of their back catalog like FF7 Remake and Rebirth or whatever, or brand new stuff. and I don't want to go here really, but the HD2D team, they have a lot of games they could pull from, and I don't want to say the C word, being Chrono Trigger.
Do it.
But,
Don't do it. No,
it's going to happen
don't do
eventually. They've done Dragon Quest, they've done Live Alive. The next obvious thing is either like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger.
If Square, if you're watching, and I know you are because you watch all of our videos, obviously you do. If you care about me personally, as a person, as a human being, you will announce and release Chrono Trigger HD 2D remake next year. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, they could do like Terranigma as well, and that would be very cool.
That would be really cool.
But I think Chrono Trigger is like one of the next obvious HD 2D games, right?
So I think it is. The other thing, and this is just pure speculation, but I do wish that the Quintet vault could be opened. I assume that Square Enix owns the rights to all Quintet games, but if we could get like a Soul Blazer trilogy HD, not even HD, just a Soul Blazer trilogy release, like of Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia or Illusion of Time, and Terranigma on modern platforms. They don't need to be HD remade, just the games. Just on modern platforms, I'd be so happy. That's obviously pure speculation, which is not necessarily what this video is about, but still, the Quintet, unlock the vault on Quintet, please. Like, yes. Those games deserve to be played by modern audiences.
I'm seeing Gex in live audience, and yes, we are getting a new Gex.
We are indeed.
A remaster even. I think that was one of the ones at Gamescom, and it was like a really early build. They've improved it since then. I remember they said that they've added like analog and all that. What they had at Gamescom was literally just a PlayStation game in 4x3 with digital movement and everything. But I think they're trying to do a lot better now with that. There was another remaster by what was it? It was another platformer of that ilk.
Was it Tom?
Croc. It was Croc. Yes, Organized Software are doing Croc as well. And they're going above and beyond with that one. They've got so many different filters in there. They've modernized it as well with like 16:9 and everything, and analog camera support too. Like, if Croc's been given the red carpet by them, I'm really excited to try that actually.
Yeah, same. And I will admit I'm not necessarily a personal fan of this series myself, but I know that our compatriot Brandon would literally murder us, slit our throats in our sleep if we didn't mention Monster Hunter Wilds.
He's furious that we're half an hour.
He's already upset.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm not a Monster Hunter guy myself, but I am so happy for Monster Hunter fans who are about to get, the next big thing in their series. It's a little bit hard for me, and Brandon and I have this running joke where I'm like, we react to all these shows together where there's always a Monster Hunter announcement. I'm like, that's great for you, but can just one Mega Man? Just one Mega Man. Just one. A little tiny Mega Man announcement. You get your Monster Hunter shit all the time. But I don't even get one Mega Man thing ever. But no, despite that, I am very happy for Monster Hunter fans getting their big new release next year. And I know Brandon would literally shiv us if we didn't mention Monster Hunter Wilds.
It's literally Capcom's biggest franchise now. Like, World is, I think World's their best-selling game ever. Monster Hunter's he's been out of that niche for a long time now. Wilds is a huge release. It is kind of nuts this is our first mention of it, because that's probably one of the biggest games of the year. I saw Bonk mention Tomb Raider. He said Gex is more important to them than Tomb Raider confirmed. Tomb Raider is getting the other trilogy next year, which is so funny because it's you've got Last Revelation Chronicle, which I think they're good games, and then you've got Angel of Darkness, which is a really funny one to re-release because they could make good of that release too, though, because it's not like an abomination of a game. It was just sort of held together by sticks, and so to give that a much more stable release, I think could lead people to respecting Angel of Darkness a little bit, maybe.
Sure.
There's a lot to fix in that game still, but it's always cool when companies re-release bad games because there's a chance to fix them up.
Right. It's funny. Another major release we haven't mentioned yet, and that has come up in live audience chat as well, is Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah.
That's also coming, we assume, next year. I think they did say 2025, so I don't think it'll slip to 26, but that looked great. It looks, what else? What is there to say, really, other than what we've seen, which isn't very much, but what we've seen looks great, and it seems like it's very much going to appeal to Ghost of Tsushima fans, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. So there's that.
And shout out to Death Stranding 2 as well, that Bonk just mentioned. That exists. I'm not a big Death Stranding fan. I'm a big Hideo Kojima fan, so I'm going to try it regardless and hope that this one sticks with me, because the first one didn't. But I think they're always wacky.
I think I'm maybe looking more forward to OD on the Kojima front.
I am as well.
Death Stranding just didn't do it for me, and I can't. I'd be lying if I said I was really excited for Stranding 2. I'm just not.
I'm going to give it a shot, but I'm not chomping at the bit for it, you know.
Sure, yeah. As Professor Bonk says, we'll see more of that tomorrow. We certainly will, given the Game Awards. We absolutely will. So, yeah.
As of this recording, anyway, for those watching, you've seen Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny going into this discussion. I was like, we don't really know a whole lot about what's coming, do we? And then as we talk about it, I was like, oh no, we know more than I thought we did. Obviously, in certain swaths, we know very little, like Nintendo, Square Enix, stuff like that. We don't know a whole lot about individual lineups. But given what we've been talking about, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. Next year.
We've got an important call out in live audience. We did not mention GTA 6 at all, which is the biggest game of the year.
Right. It's funny. I actually kind of feel like that might not make next year.
You think so?
I kind of feel like it could be very early 2026. It wouldn't surprise me, at least. I'm not saying I'm going to bet on it, but if midway through next year we heard from Rockstar, hey, it's going to make it like, March 2026, I personally wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, yeah, I think it. I personally think it probably will hit. They announced it pretty early. They announced the trailer we got was like a year ago at this point. I reckon they'll hit it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. But I am excited for this though. I'm not like a GTA mega fan, but I play all the games. I love the PS2 trilogy in particular. I love Chinatown Wars. I like 4 quite a lot. 5 didn't quite stick me in the same way. But 6 looks crazy ambitious, and it's nuts that both like this and Elder Scrolls have basically skipped a generation, right? Like, we didn't have a PS4 game. The PS4 game we had for both GTA and the Elder Scrolls was what we had previously in the last generation. So we're getting like a double generation jump from 5, which is that's always exciting.
It is. Here's a question. In terms of games we're not completely sure coming next year, alongside GTA 6, Hollow Knight Silksong.
Yeah.
Will it release in 2025? What do you think, man? Is it coming?
I think so.
You want to say yes, but it's like,
I remember, was it 2 E3s ago, Xbox showed off Silksong and said everything in this presentation will be launching by the end of this like fiscal year or something, and then Silksong just didn't.
It just didn't.
So I think they planned to, but then they obviously I don't know what they're doing with that game, because like I think I played it in like 2019 at one of Nintendo's E3 events, and it felt like it was ready to ship, but that was like 5 years ago.
Right. What is going on with that game? I've talked to more than a few people at this point who actually are convinced that it's been canceled and they just haven't admitted it yet. I don't believe that. I think it's still coming.
Yeah, it's still coming.
I think there's too much on the line to cancel it. I don't think it's been canceled, but it is wild though to think like what's really going on, right? It's weird.
We need like a documentary once this releases, just explaining like what happened here.
Seriously.
Right. Well, I think we've called out enough games. I just want to hear.
I think so.
One, and this might contradict what's happened in the Game Awards. We don't know what's being announced. So when you're watching this, you might be like, that game exists already. But is there a big game that you want in 2025 that has not been announced?
A big game that I want. Are we talking about in the realm of possibility, or?
Yeah, somewhat realistic.
Okay, so no Mega Man, no Rhythm Heaven.
Mega Man isn't like totally unrealistic. That could happen.
It doesn't feel like it, man.
It's so sad that Mega Man's become like a pie in the sky dream. Like that should be so realistic.
I agree. It really should be. Man, Caitlin had a great one. FF9 remake. We've heard that, and FF Tactics remake have both been talked about for so long now but we've never actually seen them materialize, right? Those are really good ones. I mean, to be on the Square Enix train, I hate to even do this to myself because clearly nothing I'm a fan of ever gets anything new.
Yeah.
but I actually don't think it's impossible, at least literally impossible, that Chrono Trigger HD2D remake could be a thing someday. I actually don't think that's impossible.
No, it's
I don't know why I'm doing that to myself, but I don't actually think it's impossible. So if I had to pick one that maybe, I don't know what that says about Mega Man, that I think that's more likely than a new Mega Man game, but I actually think that there is a decent chance that a Chrono Trigger HD 2D remake could happen. And if I could pick one thing that is even a little bit likely to happen in 2025, that would be it.
Okay. I feel like there's a good chance of it. And as I said in live audience, it's also the anniversary of the game.
It is.
So
it is.
It lines up. I don't know if I've just convinced myself it's likely, but I feel like Half-Life 3 is like coming.
Okay.
So for those who played Alex, and for those who haven't, there is a teaser for 3 in there. It's not to spoil anything, it does continue the story in some way, and that was done in 2020. So by 2025, it'll be 5 years ago. And in the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary documentary, they show episode 3, which is so weird, because they've been so silent about it for, I don't know how long, like since 2007 they've been silent about episode 3, and they just show archive footage of it, which to me says like they now see it as like an archived project, and they've moved on. Because why else would you show episode 3? So right. I feel like we are so close to Half-Life 3 coming. Maybe it's even done. Maybe they're just sort of ready to release it. And I think that might even be a Game Awards thing. I don't know. That could be something that already exists. But I feel like that's coming in 2025.
That would be like, obviously, like FF7 remake and Shenmue 3 levels of just historic.
That's like one of the last. That's one of the last bastions of that level of announcement, right?
Right. That would be insane. And I really, I'm not a hardcore Half-Life fan myself, but I obviously respect how important the series and how important the games are and how influential and wonderful they are. And I would be so happy for fans if that actually happened. I really hope it does.
Probably not a VR game. I think Alex was like the push for that. It's fantastic at VR, and it will be kind of hard to go back to Half-Life without that innovation. But I reckon they're going to try and be as broad as possible with this one.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah. But I think that's probably us for now. A lot of games to look forward to, a lot of re-releases, and a lot of cool new things. But the Game Awards will announce more stuff, or have announced more stuff. There will no doubt be a Nintendo Direct in like January or February, giving us even more. And so I think this is just going to be a really cool year, because we have a lot of stuff to be excited about as it is. But as the course of years go, there's going to be a bunch more announced and released. But thank you for joining us, live audience, and everybody watching this video. If you want to join that little box in the corner and talk within our videos and contribute to the discussion, you can for just $5 a month over on our Patreon. There's a link to the description below for that. But thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.